Emergency responders meet people on their worst ever days, and injury and illness, perhaps even resulting in death. Now, most of the time, the training that EMTs and paramedics go through kicks in. That patient is able to recover because they got the help they needed at the moment. Well, we have a story to share with you that I believe is going to touch your heart. Let me introduce you to some people first. To my immediate right, this is paramedic Jason Hansen with the Sussex County EMS. To his right, on the far left end, is Dan Moriarty. On his left, which is your right, that's Stephen Chapis. They're both EMTs with Georgetown. Thank you guys for stopping by this afternoon.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to come back to you here in just a second.
Okay.
Because I want to talk more about what goes on with you. Let me start with you guys. What kind of training is involved? Because you're a BLS, your basic life support, right? And an EMT is. What kind of training is involved?
Good. You just feel that one.
Don't think you're going to sit there like eye candy. That's not going to happen.
It's a 120-hour course that we take in basic life support, and we can do various interventions from oxygen to aspirin.
Okay.
And once we finish that, we go to a company, a fire company or an ambulance service, and kind of jump in and start learning what it's like on the street, because you don't learn everything in the class.
Now these guys, I want to say real quick, they were on a 24-hour shift that started at 6 o'clock this morning.
Correct.
When you're done here, are you going back to that?
Back to work.
Okay, well, thank you for that. With the number of EMTs in the state of Delaware compared to the number of paramedics that are available, you guys usually get to a patient first, right, Dan?
I would say that's probably true, but
Yeah.
a lot depends on your location.
Okay.
Yes, there's more of us than them, so to speak.
Yeah.
So we have a better shot of that. But a lot of times they can get there before us as well.
What you do, please, when you see an ambulance, pull over, let them get by you. Now, Jason, let me talk to you. What, on top of everything that they know, what additional training do you have to be a paramedic?
So paramedics typically go through a course at a college. So like I have an associate's degree from Deltech.
Okay.
It's a lot more about the disease processes and how they affect the body, how to treat them. And then we do more skills than they do. So we can do like IVs, we could put breathing tubes in,
right.
And we use the real big heart monitors that can do
so
all
in other
kinds
words,
of
if
fun
these
things.
guys do get there first, they can stabilize your patient.
Yes, yeah, and that's absolutely crucial for us is their help, and they get in there and they start figuring things out, and when we show up, they're able to tell us what's going on. They're able to tell us what they've done to help stabilize things, and then we just kind of continue the care from there.
So you guys really work as a close-knit
Oh, absolutely.
team
Very
on
well.
site.
It's,
Very well.
it's almost like a family. Like I can walk into a scene with these two and I can just look at their faces and I know if we're in the weeds or if, you know, it's a little bit more chill kind of thing.
Yeah. That's, how does it feel knowing you've got a medic on the way?
Oh, it's great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Definitely.
it helps things a lot.
especially depending on the severity of the call.
Let me make sure that I have a good grasp of what you're telling me, because these guys have a story to share that I want you to listen to. You arrive on the scene. Whoever gets there first, if you're there at the same time, you take care of your patient. You get them stabilized. You transport them to the hospital. And usually that's it. You rarely check back in to see how the patient's doing. You don't hear anything about.
Sometimes we get some feedback, like heart attack cases, stroke cases. We get a little feedback through our charting system because the hospitals will reach out and give us some information back. And then there's, with cardiac arrests, we have a system called CARES that we track all of the cardiac arrests that we participate in Sussex County. And every year we do a whole survivors ceremony, the Phoenix Awards ceremony. So that's one way we get feedback, but most calls we don't get.
You don't know what's, because I mean, all of you, whenever you have a call, once you've completed your part of that call, you move on to the next.
Yeah.
And you just kind of got to pack it down and set that aside and let's focus on this one.
Occasionally we'll check if we drop somebody off and we go back to the same hospital an hour or two later, depending on what kind of call it was, we'll check
Have a chance to
on
ask
how
them.
things are
I do
going
that a
on.
bunch too.
Yeah.
Like it helps bring a little bit of closure to things, especially on the severe cases that we go on. So
Right. I mean, it's all a big family in Sussex County. You guys respond to calls of someone you know?
That happens.
Yeah, it
Yes,
does.
Definitely
Is that
does.
tough?
That is.
But you do the job.
Yes, we do.
You guys are amazing. This was Black Friday, this last Black Friday.
Yes.
And you were returning to Georgetown after a hospital trip taking an ALS patient, and you came up on an accident. Is that right? You heard it dispatched out to Milton?
No.
No,
No.
it pretty much happened right in front of us. The three of
Oh,
us,
it did?
we three of us were on our way back,
Yeah.
and we were entering the intersection, and it was the two vehicles right ahead of us. So we pretty much heard it before we saw it. It
Wow,
happened
I
so
didn't realize
fast.
that. Okay.
It was extremely loud.
Okay, two vehicles. We're just going to kind of focus on the one that had Sharon and Meadow. So
Shannon.
Shannon. I'm sorry, Shannon. And so you guys got to the car, checked on Shannon. She was the driver.
yeah,
Jason actually went to
they,
the car.
They stopped at the first car, and I walked down to Shannon's car because they were, what, 30, 40 yards apart.
Yeah.
Like
Wow.
it was a good distance, and I could hear Shannon yelling for help. I went and introduced myself, started asking some questions, and she said, "Please check on my daughter." And the side curtain airbags were down, so I couldn't really see into the car other than right where she was. And I lifted up, and I saw Meadow in the back seat in our car seat, basically lifeless. And it was, training kicked in, got around to her, got her out, hollered to these
Okay,
guys.
I'm going to give you a little more detail to the story than he is right now. Meadow had an obviously broken neck. Eventually, you figured out that she had a broken pelvis and a broken clavicle. She was having a lot of trouble breathing, and you guys got her out. Now, this is the part of the story where we're going to leave Mom. She flew out later to the hospital.
So another paramedic showed up to take care of her.
Right. Okay. So let's talk about Meadow. What happened? What'd you guys do?
Well, like you said, Dan and I went to the first car, and those people, they were walking wounded. And
Yeah.
I went to get the stretcher for the driver, and Dan came back right away and said, "Jason's got a priority one pediatric, could take the stretcher to him." So I ran it over there, and as I was getting there, he took her out of the car, had his hand behind her neck and under her knees, and set her down, and she was as white as the sheet on the stretcher.
Just to let you know, when these guys hear a priority one pediatric, alarm bells go off, flags go up, and suddenly all the adrenaline kicks in. And she was in respiratory arrest then? She wasn't breathing then?
Yeah, she wasn't breathing at all. We quickly started ventilating her with a pediatric bag valve mask,
Right.
and got her in an ambulance. And
Okay, so you stabilized her, got her off to the hospital. She was eventually flown to AI DuPont. Typical story, as we just discussed. This is usually the last you hear of it.
typically,
Okay, that wasn't the end of the story. A few days ago, these guys had a couple of visitors. We're going to show you some pictures, and you guys just jump in there and tell me what's going on here.
so that's Shannon. She's giving me a hug after talking to her.
That's Meadow.
Yeah. That was the day after they left the station.
Really?
Group shot with Mom, Dad, Meadow.
And
She was,
she was a bundle of energy. She was throwing that rabbit to everybody.
How did it feel to see her?
oh my
Oh, it
gosh.
was great.
It was awesome. Yeah.
You have to understand that Meadow was in a halo, which is it immobilizes your head, allows your neck or spine or whatever to heal, and she's up and walking.
Yeah.
In respiratory arrest, and she's up and walking.
They said she's going to be starting T-ball and swimming lessons
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So it's amazing to see that, because when we left the hospital that night, after that call, it was a quiet ride back because we didn't have a whole lot of hope for anything,
Wasn't looking good.
because we
Yeah.
knew what her injuries were.
Yeah, and typically people that are that injured don't survive these kind of things. And she is a true warrior and pulled through.
Came back.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, on behalf of our viewers, let me tell you thank you. Jason, Stephen,
Thank you.
Dan, you're the best. Now, listen, paramedic Jason Hansen with the Sussex County EMS, EMT Stephen Chapison and Dan Moriarty. How about whenever you see any first responder around, tell them thank you. Maybe buy their lunch. Let them know just how much you appreciate them being there when you need them the most, because I think that will make a huge difference in how you get. Thank you again so much. You guys are best. Thank you so much for sharing your story this afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.